It's 8 p.m. Welcome to the Citi Newsroom. My name is Vivian Kai. Look, tonight I'm here with...
I am Umaru Sandamadu, and coming up tonight.
Police in the Ashanti region gunned down 7 persons suspected to be involved in the death of a police officer during a robbery a week ago.
Also, leading candidates emerge as President Akufo-Addo prepares to name a new electoral commission chair later in the week.
Also coming up, former Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayine drags 3 state institutions to court over double salary saga.
And later, the minority in Parliament is demanding a rescission of government's plan to ban fishing along the coasts.
The details. Now, Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice Godfred Yeboah-Dami says President Akufo-Addo can appoint a new electoral commission chairperson despite the lawsuits filed against the removal of Charlotte Osei from the same position. Now, the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guy, Abdul Malik Kweku Baku Jr. and Wan Fafali Nyanotu have filed separate writs at the Supreme Court against the unprecedented removal of the EC boss. Speaking to Good Evening Ghana's Paul Adum Otri, Godfred Dami, however, said the president can go ahead with the dismissal. So let's stay with that story. And I have been joined in the studio by Suxus Don Ulo. He's a reporter who's been keeping an eye on this developing story with regards to some of the potential names that have come up. Suxus, we are picking up reports that 5 people are in the race. Can you run us through these 5 people and then we take one of them, each of them one by one?
Very interesting names we are hearing. We've heard the name Dr. Emmanuel Akwete. This is a very popular name. We've heard the name Jen Mensah of the IEA, very popular name. Another one, we've heard the name Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, also very popular both in academia and international relations. And we've heard the name Kathleen. You remember the recently appointed
Kathleen Adi,
yes,
NCC,
yes. NCCE. These are the names that are coming up so far.
Okay, so let's go take each one of them. Let's start with the Executive Director of the Institute of Democratic Governance, that's IDEC, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete. Who is he and what is he likely to bring to the table if he's appointed this position?
Vast experience with policy, with constitution, both in terms of practice and career-wise. He has carved a niche for himself within the civil society space as somebody who believes in decentralization, has championed a lot of conversations that led to policy influences in the country. You may recall him for his works on the New Year School. He's worked so much, delivered some speeches at the New Year School, facilitated various sessions at the New Year School. He is actually the founding executive director of IDEC. And every now and then you would hear IDEC taking up one project or the other in relation to either decentralization or our constitutional democracy altogether. If you recall, when the Electoral Commission started experiencing its challenges some time back, this was one of the lone voices we heard from he himself as a person, an individual, and also as a leader of the institution, IDEC. They spoke seriously against the crisis that was at the Electoral Commission at the time and the need for some leadership to be shown, both at the level of the presidency and also at the level of the commission, because they believe that the commission had a lot to do and the crisis really was not well for the good of the commission and also the good of our democracy. So he's worked all his way right from the year 2000 when IDEC took shape. He's worked through the system. He's been able to be part of the formation of the democratic process and the structures that we enjoy today as a civil society player.
So very instrumental in electoral affairs. So let's move to the second one. We're picking up Professor H.K. Prempeh. Who is he?
Also one of the serious minds that we have, if you like. He's worked both within Ghana and outside of Ghana. He's been a representative of the UN at a time, at one point, to Yemen. You know, when Yemen is always been in constant crisis, if you like, and the United Nations have had various interventions to Yemen, and he led one of those interventions at one point. But back home here in Ghana, he's prominently known for his works with CDD, where yes, he's led some of the advocacy at CDD as co-editor of their quarterly Democracy Watch. If you know the story of CDD2, this is also one of the civil society players that has stationed itself in a manner that it allows it to influence the discussions both on policy formulation and implementation in relation to our democracy, in relation to decentralization, in relation to how stakeholders have to coordinate or should work to ensure that the systems and structures within our democratic space work very well. You would recall that very recently he was announced executive director of CDD, taking over from Professor Jima Boedi. And so they have consistently worked. Remember the Afro Barometer reports that guided a lot of the work of the media in the years, months leading up to the last election that we had. That is what CDD is known for, and that is the background that from which he comes. Coming into this particular position, you can be sure that he would be influencing, he would have influence, and with that support from the international background, the relations that he's built over the years, working both on the side of the UN, working as a lecturer, a professor of law at GIMPA at a point. So yes, constitutional processes, he knows it in terms of the academics and also in terms of the practice. Okay,
another name has popped up, also a professor of law, Henrietta Mensah Bonsu.
This is one woman, Vivian, that's excites a lot of people. For students of the law and for lawyers, a lot of them have passed through her hands. At the University of Ghana, at the Ghana Law School, at the University of Ghana, she does two things. Those are the things that we can easily reference. At the University of Ghana Law School, she's been a lecturer, constitutional law, and if you talk about feminism, I'm very sure the feminists would be excited if she gets the nod, because if you look at her background, she's one woman who believes in empowering other women, one woman who believes that every woman in the country must have an opportunity, and also believes that we must be able to situate our development needs within any particular discussion that we have, within any particular framework that we want to set up for ourselves. So yes, in academia, she's very well known by a lot of the lawyers you can mention in this country. At one point, her name came up for appointment to the bench. But, well, we know it doesn't always work out. The fact that your name comes up doesn't always mean that you get the nod. But that is how highly placed she is, both within the corridors of power and within academia itself. We know that presently she's the director of LESIAT at the University of Ghana. That's the Legon Center for Diplomacy and International Affairs. And she lectures still as a law professor. And she's on so many boards. And if you look at a lot of the institutions across the country, you would find her on one board or the other, influencing policy, dictating the direction that policy must go, and ensuring that it favors, it always has to be on the side of peace and building structures. That is what she believes in. She also has an international face. She's been able to get lots of these international appointments, secure them by the UN, at the UN level, at the African Union level. She's had all of these appointments that she's dealt with.
Right. So let's go to another woman. It looks like quite a number of women in this race, Mrs. Jean Mensah.
I can only agree with you that if all the names we are hearing so far, if they get the nod, yes, the women in this country will be really happy if the names we have here get the nod. Jean Mensah, you know her for IEA, Institute of Economic Affairs. You can talk about the transition bill that the IEA was so influential on. You can talk about the political parties and their engagement, creating an interface for democracy for the political parties to engage with the government of the day, creating that interface between the political parties and the electoral system, creating an interface between the political parties and other players within the political dispensation. This is what IEA does, and this is championed by this woman, Jen Mensah, who is the executive director of the IEA. You know, very recently, with the transition of administration from John Mahama to Akufo-Addo, there were the issues about transition. What does the law say? What should happen? What shouldn't happen? This was the institution that did so well to draft some bill, which eventually saw some endorsement by our representatives. But for that, a lot of people say that the 2016 transition would have been very chaotic, but it was perfect, at least so far, with the number of transitions that we have witnessed within this particular dispensation. They say that thanks to this particular bill that the IEA works on with other members, we saw some sanity within the transition. Also remember the long-standing debate about public funding for political parties. Yes, the IEA is also, you know, facilitating that particular discourse, ensuring that the political parties come to reason. The problem they have always had is that the political parties change shape as and when it suits them on this particular bill. But you would always see the IEA building some consensus, or one consensus or the other, amongst the political parties between incumbents and oppositions. To
we have to wrap up on this story. Final person, Kathleen Addy, within 30 seconds.
A communications expert, if you like, a development analyst, if you like. She focuses on her experience. That's where we'll likely see her experience come to bear if she gets the nod. So you would have not just a department of the Electoral Commission on communications, you would have somebody, a member of the commission, actually specialized in communications and development, and would ensure that we have that long-standing relationship between the commission and the public polished.
All right. Sixtus Donulo, thank you so much for your time. So, listeners, we'll be bringing you who the president chooses. Finally, we're told that he's expected to announce the new chairperson as well as the deputies after the budget statement. So, we're bringing you who or which people are chosen. Immediately, we get that story. So let's move on to some other stories. And 7 out of 8 suspects who attack led to the death of a police officer with a SWAT unit of the Ashanti Region Police Command have today been gunned down. Now, the deceased officer, Lance Corporal Daniel Teku, was on duty with his colleague, Lance Corporal Eric Ntian, when 8 masked men attacked the vehicle they were traveling in at Ayubikrum near Manson in Kwata. The bodies of the suspected robbers have since been deposited at the Comfort Anochi Teaching Hospital morgue.
The deceased officer was on duty with his colleague when the incident happened. The two were on board a Sprinter Benz bus with registration number AC 64415. When 8 masked men armed with AK-47 assault rifles and a pump-action gun attacked the passengers at the outskirts of Ayubikrum on Wednesday, 11th July 2018. The 2 police officers were overpowered by the masked men and were shot along with other passengers on board. The masked men seized the weapons belonging to the officers in the process. The officer was pronounced dead upon arrival at the St. Martin's Hospital at Agoyesum. After the death of the officer, Ashanti Regional Police Commander DCOP Akwesi Mensah Duku told Citi Newsroom that the police acted upon intelligence and proceeded to Dome Biposo, a village near Mansun Kwanta, and retrieved 4 AK-47 assault rifles, including those seized from the police officers. The police also retrieved 1 G3, an SMG assault rifle, and a pump-action gun. Other items confiscated include 7 boxes of ammunition, with each containing 25 rounds, 88 pieces of AK-47 ammunition, and some clothes.
Now, the Supreme Court has ordered for the defreezing of all accounts of former boss of Cocoa Board, Dr. Stephen Opuni, by the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, EOCO. The unanimous decision by the court, presided over by Justice Jones Doche, however, asked for 25,000 Ghana cedis to remain frozen. The Supreme Court order follows previous attempts by Mr. Opuni to have the High Court defreeze his accounts. Mr. Opuni's lawyers had accused EOCO of abuse of power following the freezing of his accounts.
EOCO in 2017 began investigations into the activities of Dr. Opuni as during his tenure as chief executive of Cocoa Board. During that period, EOCO froze the account of Dr. Opuni. Dr. Opuni had two accounts, one with Standard Chartered Bank and the other one with EcoBank. After a year or so, during the freezing of these accounts, a court ordered that Mr. Opuni's accounts be defrozen. These accounts were defrozen a few hours after EOCO went back to court asking that these accounts be frozen once again. They were able to secure an order of the court freezing the accounts some hours after it was released. Dr. Opuni, not happy with this particular decision of the court, went back to the High Court for a review of the decision of the court. During the hearing of this review, lawyers of Dr. Opuni accused EOCO of going against their own laws, which was Section 40 of the EOCO Act, and accused the EOCO of acting illegally. The judge, in taking a decision in this particular matter, decided that he was going to put or keep the freeze on the accounts of Dr. Opuni. Dr. Opuni then headed to the Supreme Court for a review of the decision of the High Court. During the arguments which were held in court today, lawyers of Dr. Opuni still maintained that the actions of EOCO was illegal and also went against their own act, which was Section 40 of the EOCO Act. The justices of the Supreme Court, presided over by Justice John Doche, took a decision which asked that Dr. Opuni's accounts be released to him. But in making this decision, the justices of the court asked that 25,000 cedis, to which EOCO alleged that Dr. Opuni received illegally, be frozen. So, as we speak now, 25,000 cedis of Dr. Opuni's money still remains frozen.
So we'll be following that story, but let's still remain in the courts because the former Deputy Attorney General under the Mahama administration, Dr. Dominic Ayine, has filed a suit against the Attorney General, Controller and Accountant General, as well as the Inspector General of Police, of allegations of receiving double salaries made against him. In his writ, he's asking the court to uphold his fundamental human rights by directing the Controller and Accountant General's Department to furnish his lawyers with details of all payments made to him between the period of May 2013 and December 2016. We've been joined on the line now by the former Deputy AG, who is also a Member of Parliament, Dr. Dominic Ayine, for more on exactly why he's decided to go to court. You're welcome, sir, to Eyewitness News. Is it not Eyewitness, forgive me, this is a Citi Newsroom. Is it the case that you have been charged, for which reason you're seeking these documentation to defend yourself?
Umaru, I have a constitutional right to vindicate myself, to take action against any state institution when that institution is conducting itself in a manner that affects my rights. So, irrespective of whether or not I am being charged as a criminal, according to the news report that we received and according to what I was told by the CID, I still have that constitutional right if I'm not being treated fairly. And so, as I said in our earlier interview, the purpose of this is to hold the Controller and Accountant General to standards of accountability that are enshrined in the statutes of this country. For instance, the Public Finance Management Act, as well as the Financial Administration Regulations. When someone who has worked for the state in a public capacity, is involved in any matter that is of a financial nature, right? For instance, matters relating to the person's emoluments and so on and so forth. You are by law obliged to write to the person and then inform them that this is the situation in which they have found themselves with respect to their financial dealings. And then they can respond. But that hasn't happened in this case. The first time I heard that I had been overpaid by the state was when I was invited by the CID and subsequently, basically detained there to answer questions relating to the issue of double salary. And then you see that almost invariably, there are news items, particularly by daily guys, making allegations against all of us that we have stolen money, we paid ourselves whilst in office, and so on. And these are palpably untrue. But that is because the Comptroller and Accountant General is not taking the right steps. So the purpose of this is to hold him accountable, and then also to let the court, declare that police powers are not powers that are at large. Are you by
this request from the controller suggesting that you did not receive the said double payment, or it is the case that you want clarity on why you received double payment?
Well, I'm not saying that. I did not receive any double payment. Okay, from my own narrative, it is clear that I got paid by Parliament. It is also clear that I got paid by the Attorney General. But we were told that was a top-up payment. Now, if that top-up payment ended up being in excess of what we were entitled to, then that was a problem that Comptroller and Accountant General, ought to have dealt with. Because they were the ones, we don't, assess our own salary. We don't, determine how much you are supposed to be paid in terms of salaries and other emoluments. And so if they made a mistake, it is only proper that they write to us that we made a mistake in making these payments to you, and you've been overpaid by X amount of money. And then we can reconcile accounts, and then if there's a need for us to, refund money to the state, we'll do so. I stand ready to do so. Even if I don't have money, they can take their money from my salary. But to treat me as a common criminal, as someone who is honestly misappropriated state funds, for me, it is something that I cannot stand, because I take my integrity really very seriously, Umaru.
Is it your intent that with these documents that will be released to you, or the statement of account that will be delivered to you, you would make a case in court that, look, here it is, I was never deliberately receiving double pay, and that since my attention was drawn, I've asked the Controller General, and you should be blaming the Controller General who decided to pay me double instead of giving me a single salary that I was entitled to? Is that your intent?
It is not about blaming the Controller and Accountant General. It is about requiring the Controller and Accountant General to do the right thing in accordance with law. Okay? Because if the Controller suddenly realized, after we left office, that he had overpaid some of us, the right thing to have done would have been to write to us or communicate to us in some way, regarding that overpayment, and then asking us to take steps to refund the money to the Republic, because those monies don't belong to us. But to make it look like we overpaid ourselves, because that is the narrative that is out there. And yet, Umaru, I never signed a check, to pay myself. I never made any orders relating to my salary. In fact, I never even had any discussions with anybody relating to my salary. All I did was hand over my account, a number to the paymaster for the payment to be made. And if the paymaster made a mistake, why should that mistake now be based upon me in the form of a criminal liability? That is what I don't understand.
As a former attorney general, I do know that you know the laws very well. You know which law or which case is prosecutable and which one is not. Now, you are feigning ignorance, and I'm sure you lawyers say something that the ignorance of the law does not necessarily serve as defense. In this instance, you're feigning ignorance?
That is true. I'm not feigning ignorance, if I may correct you. I'm not feigning ignorance. I'm being very honest with you, and anyone who has known me from my childhood knows that I won't feign ignorance. In fact, if I had done what the alleged I have done, I would have confessed and gone to jail. All right? But I haven't done it. I honestly did not even know that I had been overpaid. And I wrote a letter in June of 2017 protesting the calculation of my ex gratia. And that letter is in evidence now because I deposed to the affidavit and attached that letter. So it was I mean, what you may call, if it's at all, an honest mistake, maybe on my part, I should have checked. But how do I even do that when I didn't even know how much I was entitled to be paid as an Article 71 officer?
Were you receiving these monies in double accounts, or it was a single account that was receiving both the salary from the executive?
No, I gave one account to the Republic. I never gave any double accounts. And by the way, you know, the whole idea that people gave double accounts, and because of that, I mean, that is evidence of thievery. You know, it's laughable. The reason is simply because, look, Umar, I'm sure you have more than one account with banks. And if you are asked to give a bank account into which a payment that you are legitimately entitled to be made, and you give it out, how is that evidence of your intention?
Yes, but if I give two accounts for a single pay, that means that I was intending to.
You see, the problem, the narrative that has been given so far, all right, by the government and then by its agents, is that this was supposed to be a single pay, but it wasn't, because ministers are paid a top-up if they are also members of parliament. Deputy ministers are paid a top-up if they are also members of parliament. And that is where the confusion has come. Because controller took the account numbers after we were appointed and started paying without consulting, parliament to know what difference there was to pay from controller. Okay? So it is not as if people intentionally gave two accounts in order to be able to hide, their intention of stealing money from the Republic.
Very well.
In any case.
Very well. We need to end it there. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Dr. Dominic Akutunga Ayine is NDC MP for Bolga East and a former Deputy Minister for Attorney General Ministry for Justice under the Mahama administration. He is suing a number of institutions, 3 of them, over that so-called double salary saga. This is CNR on Citi TV, coming to you from our studios here at Adabraka in Accra. I am Umaru Sandamadu here with Vivian Kai Loko. When we come back, the youth in Ikropon are demonstrating against the continuous occupation of the Okwapem Hines Palace by personnel of national security.
We spice up your mornings with culturally enriched conversations, social interviews, and policy-oriented discussions that will keep you updated on the progress of the nation.
Because we're giving only those in their 3rd trimester. So in the next 3 months, those in their 2nd would be ready to receive the kits. And we're taking data at registration, which is before they take the kits, at delivery and post-delivery, so that we can analyze and we'll see the numbers. So from the numbers and the data that we're collecting, we would know what has worked, what hasn't worked,
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Let your voice be heard with the hashtag Breakfast Daily. Join us for breakfast daily, only on Citi TV.
Wherever the weekend sporting action happened, we will bring it to you here on Scorecard. Every goal, every dunk, every punch, the winning strides, and the winning volleys.
International media, he said, look, wait, sit and wait. Let me have a meal with my people. And I think that's the same cool, it's the same organization he brings to the field every time I've seen him play. He looks to me like somebody who has played over 50 caps already. Okay. But this guy has barely played over 25 caps for the national team.
All of the weekend's action in one place. Scorecard. Every Sunday at 8 p.m. prompt on Citi TV.
Welcome back to the Citi Newsroom. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. Now, Citi News understands that President Akufo-Addo has asked the Minister of Finance to maintain the 17.5% value-added tax ahead of the mid-year budget review on Thursday. We also understand that a proposal for increment in the National Health Insurance Scheme levy has been adopted by Cabinet, including an increment in SNIT contributions to back the scheme. Now, joining me in the studio is an economist, Mr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, to explore further on this latest development and its impact on you. Mr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, welcome to the Citi Newsroom.
Thank you.
Now, before we go into detail of the various things that we're likely to see maintained or increased, etc., how did government get to this point that it has to deal or increase taxes or widen some of the decisions it's taken to ensure that it shows up at the revenue?
Well, first of all, we must understand that things were a bit difficult. We had a very challenging fiscal position by the end of 2016. So this administration inherited a very difficult fiscal position for the country. And we are still under the IMF program. Of course, the major pillar in the IMF program is fiscal consolidation. And fiscal consolidation will mean bringing down budget deficit and bringing down public debt. Budget deficit is the difference between revenue and expenditure. So you either bring down your expenditure or you raise revenue. And bringing down expenditure is not an option because government machinery must run. Therefore, it is important to raise the revenue. And in addition to that, we also know that this government has made a number of promises. They tend to solve almost all the problems at a go,
That's right.
Which is not advisable. So everything, I mean, meeting a difficult position, huge public debt, having made promises, you have to undertake something, your programs must run, your projects must run. So all these things are, coming to bear. And then, of course, the finance minister, everything is about money. They would want to raise the revenue. Ghana's tax revenue as a ratio of GDP is just 16%, which is woefully lower than the Sub-Saharan Africa average of 20%. When you narrow it down to the domestic revenue, it's about 20%. Also, it is lower than the average of 27%. So there's that. And then again, grants, the budgetary support to government, last year it was 1.5 billion cedis. This year is about 587 million cedis.
A huge drop.
Yeah, huge drop by 2/3. So now everything is, is incumbent on government to mobilize resources domestically to meet the tall list of, the programs and projects. The concern that the president has raised, I think I share with him, because when you campaigned on the back of, abolishing a number of taxes or even reducing some of the tax rates. So it was a bit uncomfortable, to hear that they intended to increase taxes. I'm sure they were just testing waters. These politicians, they can do all sorts of things. But economically speaking, I think that we need to raise the tax revenue. However, it shouldn't come from just one source. The VAT perhaps is the most convenient way, the most shortest way. You can get it in months. But there are other avenues that they can explore, and these avenues will take you like a year, 6 months, or 2 years. Like we have been talking about formalizing the informal sector, asking the informal sector to pay taxes. Property tax this year is just 150 million Ghana cedis, which is very low. If we ask the local authorities, the MMDAs, the district assemblies, to collect property tax so that they can finance their own projects and relieve the burden on government, I think these are all areas that we can explore. People have mentioned the taxes on plastic materials.
Yes, right.
Our gutters get choked, when it rains, and it all costs for money. NADMO will need money to get the country back. So there are so many areas that we can, tackle to raise revenue. Last time I heard the Minister of Finance say that about 4 million Ghanaians who are supposed to pay taxes do not pay. Either they avoid or evade. People go to take their cars, their property from the ports. They run away. Somebody will tell you that I'm going to Burkina Faso. They end up at Burkina. So all these things, would have to be the areas where we have to raise the revenue. So I feel the pain for the government, particularly having come to meet huge public debt, 122 billion cedis. Currently is about 145 billion cedis. Now the interest payments alone that we pay every year. The interest, we have not even talked about the principal, only the interest. This year, we are paying 14.9 billion cedis.
But if you look at this government, for example, when it came in, it tried to restructure this interest payment thing. Secondly, if you listen to the finance minister during the last budget, he spoke about dealing with some of these issues. For example, property tax. We're supposed to get to a point where we actually collect property tax. That hasn't been done. He also spoke about some of the issues of widening the tax net. A lot of things were rolled out to deal with widening the tax net. We had the POS system that we've heard them talk about, but it hasn't taken off. So a lot of initiatives. Why is government finding it so hard to deal with these initiatives that will show up the revenue?
That is a question you should ask the politician.
From where you're sitting, what do you think?
I think it's a matter of commitment. Last time when I heard the Liberian president say that he wants to model his economic growth and development and programs alongside that of Ghana, I was a bit skeptical. Why? Why Ghana? And a friend hinted me that Ghana has one of the best books in terms of development models that we have. The issue is about implementation. The difference between Ghana and Rwanda, where now, in 1994, Rwanda was having genocide. 1 million people killed, 2 million displaced. In 1993, Ghana was enjoying the Fourth Republic. 25 years down the line, Rwanda is ahead of Ghana. Rwanda is second in Southern Africa, doing business in Southern Africa. Ghana is 12. So the difference is about leadership. It's about the person. It's about the willingness. It's about the person who wants to, who is hungry for success. I think everything comes back to political economy. As economists, we can only research and recommend. If you research and you recommend and the politician is not taking it, there's nothing you can do. So I think that these areas of mobilizing resources, government must be committed to it. There must be that will to it. There's so many leakages you have mentioned, so many wastages in the system. Is government prepared to cut down the size of its machinery? The convoy, 2 secretaries to a director in the ministries, maybe 2 drivers to a director in the ministries. Can we do redeployment in the public sector? The public sector takes a huge chunk of the budget. 16 billion this year we are going to spend on employee compensation. So if there's a will, there's a way. So I think that we need not to politicize everything. After elections, NDC, MPP, PPP, all the political parties must come together as one and say that we want this country to move forward. We want to develop. We must be hungry for development and stop politicizing almost everything. When that ceases, the president will not feel, any way to enforce any law. Because sometimes I think that they watch their back. They want to listen to what NDC is going to say, what they are going to do. But if you all are in agreement...
And they look at the impact on the elections.
And the impact on the elections...
a huge problem.
I am one of those people who have, spoken against this 4-year cycle elections. I think that 8 to 10 year, one term is good for the economy. Because, except 2004, in almost every election year, we overrun our expenditure, which takes us back to IMF. So it's a serious problem with our election cycle. And therefore, another thing that I would want to talk about is the punitive measures that the judiciary can, meet with those who embezzle public funds. Each year, we sit down, watch our TVs, hear the Public Accounts Committee. Last time, I think Honorable Apak thought that I was saying that they were not doing well. I think they are doing fantastic well. But the point is that after the report, what do we do with the report? We were here last week. The Auditor General's report was released. What are we going to do? In the Brazil 2014 World Cup, a lot of things happened. What did we do? So the punitive measures to take our money back and also to serve as a deterrent to those who are even thinking of doing those things are not there.
If you look at some of the things we are likely to see, tax on luxury cars, NHIS levy increased, SNIT also increased, are these long-term solutions?
Some of them. Basically, I've said that the property tax is not enough. The ones you have collected already is not enough. just 150 million. We need billions of cedis, not 150 million. And again, you mentioned why are they not doing, because it's the politicians who own the property. So when they have to enforce the laws, they're enforcing the laws on their own properties. So the will is not there. And that is where the problem is. The will must be there, you know, because if you keep taxing, a simple level 200 economic students will tell you that the tax multiplier is negative on aggregate demand. So the more you increase tax, the more people, the welfare decreases, GDP decreases, and welfare decreases. So you cannot continue to tax the same people over and over and over again. There are so many ways of taxing. You asked about the long-term solution. What you have mentioned are, you know, ways of, you know, increasing revenue in the long term. There are other areas like DVLA. If you are asked to, it's one of the requirements should be a TIN, your tax identification number. Then we can have that. Everybody will pay, and then you go, you present your TIN, you get your license. We have mentioned the mining companies, that their contribution to government is inadequate. They must be increased. Many companies are enjoying the free zones. We must amend that act. You know, so there are so many ways of mobilizing the resources, but particularly with the leakages, it's like pouring water in a basket. You know, you pour the water and then it goes down. You collect about 100 cedis, you account for 80. By the time the 80 gets down, it's left with 40. And the 40 is even overpriced. You know. So these are some of the areas that we can look at to raise enough revenue for the country.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Edu Usu-Sarkodie. He's an economist. We'll, of course, let you know how, what the finance minister says in the budget, whether you will indeed be seeing some tax hikes or not. So keep your dial on the Citi TV. Now let's move on to some other stories. And the minority wants government to immediately reverse the ban on fishing in August. Now, according to them, the reason for imposing the ban is not backed by scientific evidence, and the move would only bring untold hardship to fisher folk. There's more in this report.
Government's decision to ban fishing activities for the month of August has attracted criticisms from fisher folk who say the ban is ill-timed and should be postponed. The latest group to join the calls for a reversal of the ban is the minority. According to their spokesperson on agriculture, Eric Opoku, the reason that the fishes must be allowed to spawn in the close season to increase the country's fish stock is not tenable. Here are his reasons.
What we are saying is that if you assume that the fish is in one place, and that if they want to spawn, they will just come to the shore to do it and go away. That assumption is inaccurate, because they move. They are migrating. Yes, the same scientific study. The same study. And the committee is aware that they are moving from the east from the west towards the east. So they are migrating. So whenever they get to a place and the pregnant ones feels like delivering, they do it and go away. They spawn as they move along. So what you are saying is that if you place the ban in August, what it means is that after the ban, can you assure Ghanaians that the fish will be in our waters for our farmers to go and catch? Because they are migrating.
The minority is also considering legal action if government does not heed to their call for a reversal of the ban. James Agalga is MP for Bulsa North.
We have, over the period, gone to court whenever we became convinced that the Akufo-Addo government acted in contravention of the Constitution or any existing statute. But you see, it is not even the only approach that we should adopt. You must remember that the president swore an oath to defend the Constitution and all laws of the country. He took that oath. And so whenever there are statutory violations or constitutional breaches, apart from going to court to ask the courts to to declare that a violation has been occasioned, we need to ask ourselves as a people that if you voted for a president who can at will allow his agents or personally commit statutory violations of laws passed by the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, then I think we should begin to think twice.
Back on the floor of the House, the Health Minister, Kweku Agyeman-Manu, appeared to answer questions on the 5 deaths that occurred at the Senchi Health Center due to the alleged administration of expired medication. According to him, the police are yet to conclude investigations on the matter.
So, Speaker, the health workers involved were arrested and detained on the preliminary charge of murder. They were subsequently granted bail by the Koforidua High Court as investigations continued. The Ministry is awaiting the outcome of the police investigation for further action. So, Speaker, the Ministry of Health, however, conducted multi-agency and multidisciplinary investigations into the cause and have since put in measures to avert its recurrence.
For Citi News from Parliament, I am Duke Mentor-Poku.
Now, a youth group calling itself Sons and Daughters of Nkwapimang in the Akropong area this morning marched through the principal streets of the town to register their displeasure over the continuous takeover of the Nkwapim Hini's palace by personnel of National Security.
Now, 8 months ago, personnel from National Security were posted to the palace to prevent 2 royal factions from installing 2 separate chiefs to occupy the stool following the death of the chief.
The group, numbering about 70, molded placards with inscriptions, "Give us back our palace, let rule of law work, nobody is above the law, arbitration cases has power, is Nanado the president of Victor Newman," chanted war songs as they marched through the principal streets with about 40 security personnel from both the Akropong Divisional Command and men from the counter-terrorism unit of the Ghana Police Service Regional Command. According to the group, the complete takeover of the palace and prevention of palace staff from carrying out their traditional duties by security personnel is hindering development and progress of Nkwapimang. The group, who presented a petition to President Nanado through the Municipal Chief Executive Dennis Abuaje, pleaded with the government to withdraw the national security personnel for the necessary traditional rites to be carried ahead of the pending Ojura Festival. Seth Anthony Marfo is the spokesperson for the group.
The young men who have been deployed by the traditional authorities were also not spared the ordeal of the national security operatives. They were mercilessly and brutally assaulted by the gang-wielding national security operatives. All the administrative activities of the Traditional Council has been put on hold since that dawn raid. All traditional rites that are carried on in the palace have been halted. The very root of our custom and tradition has been and is being ravished. The staff of the palace have been forced to stay away from work for all this time. Students and research fellows who also used to regularly visit the palace for traditional and customary information can also not get access to the palace. Traditional arbitration and customary dispute resolution has also been halted. This has gravely affected the peace of the Nkwapim state. Mr. President, you are the head of state of Ghana, but also our kinsman, whom we adore and revere. Please save the soul of Nkwapimang from further desecration and defilement.
The Municipal Chief Executive of the Akropong Municipal Assembly, Dennis Abuaje, who received the petition, lauded them for carrying out a peaceful demonstration and promised to deliver the petition to the President. In an interview with the press, the MCE, Mr. Abuaje, stated that government can only provide security to ensure safety of citizens and not to be meddling in chieftaincy and traditional affairs.
We don't need to create panic when there is none. People have concerns that there is no chief within the capital. They believe that certain things are working against the completion of the process of installation of the chief. They have brought their petition and they have indicated what they believe are the reasons why the installation of the chief is delaying. those things would be addressed. And if there are any things at all that we can do on our part as government, that is what we'll do. But to go to the main issue, the substantive matter, the fact is that we as government we are not competent enough to install a chief for any community in Ghana. What we are able to do is to ensure that nobody gets hurt, nobody is harmed in the process. So like I rightly said, the petition has been addressed to government, but the people in their own wisdom did the right thing by copying the chieftaincy system.
As the famous rich traditional and cultural Odra festival approaches, indigents of Okuyapeman, both home and abroad, can only hope and pray that settles for a successful festival. From Okuyapem Ekropon in the Ekropon Municipal Assembly, from Okuyapem Ekropon in the Ekropon North Municipality, Neoni Amate Kanaku, reporting for Citi News.
Some other stories, and the discovery of oil in the western region promise for many residents a chance to gain employment while improving their communities.
Now, this objective has become a pipe dream that could soon get out of hand, according to the DCE for Elembele, Kwesi Bonzo, who says the district is likely to soon experience demonstrations due to the economic hardship pertaining in spite of the oil find. Citi TV's Akwesi J. Nim has the details from Isiama.
The DCE for Elembele, Kwesi Bonzo, addressing a town hall meeting at Esiama, which coincided with his one-year anniversary, said the residents who anticipated benefit from the oil industry have been left disappointed.
The discovery of oil and gas is always providing first class as a district, because the oil and gas production is not taking down, rather we are facing serious consequences as a result of hosting most of the oil and gas companies and mining companies. Cost of revenue is extremely high. The social cost of oil and gas production is so huge, and after if it goes almost there as a check, it will pose a very big threat to us. But I see an area that if you don't act very fast and act decisively, we are going to have a lot of applications in our district. So we have approached major institutions, including the World Bank, the International Finance Corporation, including the President Commission, to sit down with us as an assembly and fashion out means of bringing the benefit of the oil and gas to the doorstep of the people of the district.
Elembele district, headquartered at Nkrofo, is currently the host of most of the country's petroleum industry onshore installations, including the Ghana gas processing plant at Atoabo, the ENI onshore receiving plant at Zanzule, as well as other petrochemical installations. Residents who spoke to Citi Newsroom on the street of Esiama confirmed the fears of the DCE with problems of high rent due to demand by petroleum workers.
Most of the workers are still in Ezema, so you find it difficult to stay with them because everybody, if you go to any landlord and ask of a room, they thought you are working there. Meanwhile, we are also not getting anything from it, and there's no any opportunity for us in the same community to get the access to that place.
I one room now to oil and gas for now. I'm a banana, I walk on for Mabano. I don't know for no more Bob or almost Santos will be a non so much choose can cash. I'm on take. I may watch a young pass. I'm one room. No, I number 1245. I don't really see. I know I buy or see a dam will sing like 80 Ghana or 2 years. And it's not your genesica until I ban sent me and a pana number 50. I say if you run plus and you make coffee, I'm coffee 10 o'clock. No, be added that.
This is the only access road from Esiama to Nkrofo, which is the hometown of Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, but it is a headache to both motorists and passengers.
We read about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We know him to be a great man, and we expected that his hometown would be the best. In fact, everything connecting to his hometown should be the best. But since I came here, I've been plying on this route, and then I have not seen any change. When you are going, you wobble, and then when you are coming, the same time. So, in fact, to say the least, the route is terrible.
The Elembele DC, Kwesi Bonzo, however, revealed plans for the roads as well as other concerns.
But the contractor started working on it and then abandoned the project midway. And we've been working very hard, and just in the last couple of months, the GMPC has taken over the funding. So, and they have given us an indication that in the next month, that a contractor will start working seriously on that road.
Reporting for Citi Newsroom, I am Akwesi Eje-Enim, Esiama.
Now, a week after the Minister for Railways Development, Joe Gatti, promised a return to service of the train service between Accra and Nsawam, Citi Newsroom cameras have spotted active repair works on the tracks. Citi Newsroom's reporter Caleb Kuda spent some time with the workers at the graphic road side of the tracks.
In their helmets, boots, and bibs and overall uniform, the workers, numbering about 30, took measurements and broke sweat to face the demobilized tracks. They dug tracks, lifted rails, hammered slippers in line, and tightened bolts and nuts. The skeleton tracks were then aligned on a stretch of land, which in recent times became a road created by self-serving drivers and a market for encroachers. The workers here tell Citi Newsroom in confidence that the materials needed for a full-scale tract from Accra to Nsawam are not yet ready. Work was, however, ongoing with old wooden sleepers, which will be replaced with brand new ones as and when they are made available. Much of the work done is manpower driven. The sector minister, Joe Gatti, has given a 2-month deadline for the completion and functioning of the Accra and Nsawam railway line. It is not clear if this deadline can be met if the workers have to replace the wooden sleepers in future in the same manpower fashion because materials are not yet available. But the workers looked happy, at least for the joy of earning their wage.
Now, a team from Citi FM today visited the Angel Specialist International School at North Ridge, Lyceum School, to continue with the Literacy Challenge engagement exercise. At the first level of the challenge, junior high school students are expected to write an essay on the topic. It's 2035. The year allows people below 40 years to contest for the presidency.
Now, you are a presidential candidate in the general election. In not less than 600 words, write your manifesto speech. Now, the top 50 students are the second level will write an aptitude test, after which 10 students will be selected to take part in the classic competition to determine the top 3 winners of the competition. Now, some of the students share with Citi News how beneficial this exercise has been.
As part of the mandates of Citi FM to promote education in Ghana, we've brought up this promotion for students in the JSS.
I think the Citi FM Literacy Challenge is a very good initiative which must be applauded, and this initiative is going to help build the literacy level and encourage students across the country to read and write more.
I think the Literacy Challenge is for children with innovative minds to see what they can do about the general elections and stuff. And they want to spot out children who have imaginative minds and what they can do to change the whole nation.
The Literacy Challenge will help improve the confidence of students and then may give politicians ideas on how to help Ghana to improve, and also make Ghana a peaceful and good country for people to live and stay.
Sandra, interesting one there.
I wish I could write that essay, Vivian. I know I would have passed.
So when you were at Tamasco, do you want us to talk about your SSC results?
No, let's leave that for now. We are by the roadside, Vivian. We don't talk about these matters in public.
Well, that's it for Citi Newsroom tonight. Visit citinewsroom.com for more news. You can get business news, general news, entertainment, sports, what have you. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. Thank you so much for joining us.
Umaru Sanda Amadu. Thank you for viewing. Have a pleasant evening.
Good night.